Hey, good morning, everyone. Hey, I've been talking about this early phase of entrepreneurship, and that is the phase where you're really going to check out an idea for a business. Way short of doing some serious business planning, you want to do a thoughtful assessment of your business idea to simply know enough that convinces you that you want to go further with this idea, that it looks good in many respects. And we call that process ideation. So I want to go back into ideation just for a moment and talk about one key aspect of it being having a winning solution. And what we mean by this is a winning solution from the perspective of being able to win against all comers, your competitors in the status quo, which I'll cover in a minute. But you got to have a winner. If you don't have a winner, you're going to have a very hard time in your market, because you're up against others that are just as good as you. What the heck good is that? You have to beat them. If you can't beat them, then why are you going to play in this game at all? So if you find that you don't have a winning solution, go back and rethink it. So what does a winning solution look like anyway? So let's take a further look. Look, it starts with you understanding your positioning in the market that you're in. So you clearly understand what market segment, a very specific and narrowly focused market segment that you're going to go after, that you think has the highest need for what it is you're going to be selling. In ideation, you figured out the need you're going to fulfill, right? And how you're going to fulfill it. Well, to whom are you going to fulfill it? That's a market. There's certainly lots of choices for markets you probably could enter. You're going to position yourself as going after a very specific and narrowly defined market, so you have some reasonable chance of success, and you don't waste a whole lot of time and resource on many other market segments when one is good enough. Go after one and win big in it. So it's positioning within the market. Then you've got to position yourself against competition. So you may not be the only player in this market you've selected. So how are you going to beat them? First of all, know who they are and how you compare to them. I often suggest that entrepreneurs do a competitive matrix, I call it. Competitive matrix, where you list all the functionality of what you have to offer and you compare it to the one or two or three major competitors, the ones that you're going to be up against, and show that you clearly are better than them in a lot of ways. You may be equal to, maybe even poorer than them in a few, but when you add it all up, and it would be very visible if you showed a competitive matrix that you're better in so many ways that you certainly are going to win. So that's competitive positioning. So you figure this out by doing an assessment of the competition. How do you do that? You're going to go to the internet, take a look at their website, and by God, you could learn a lot about them just from their website alone. You can determine their marketing strategy, what their value proposition is. They ought to be leading with it. They can't hide that. So what the heck is it? So you know what you're up against and what they're trying to do, and you can validate that indeed they're going after the same market need that you are. You take a look at their products and services. You start developing that competitive matrix that I just mentioned a little while ago. And this assessment is getting all of what you know about them on pieces of paper so you can determine that you are indeed better. And if you're not, you know what you've got to do to improve upon what you have to offer. So a really good way to go about this is that famous SWOT analysis. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. All done from the perspective of your competitor. After you've done that and have determined what strengths you have versus them and them versus you, and what weaknesses they have that you can exploit, and what opportunities exist in this market that they're not capable of going after perhaps, the threats both of the competitor and of the industry in general, or regulatory threats, market changes and trends and things like that you should know about. You add all that up and come up with a competitive strategy. How are you going to win against these folks after you've done this assessment and the SWOT analysis and the competitive matrix I mentioned earlier? How the hell am I going to beat them? And you come up with a competitive strategy to do it. One competitor that I haven't talked about yet is the way it is now, the status quo. The status quo is you identified a market you're going to go after, and these are people that are dealing with this need right now. They're living with it. They may hate the situation they're in, but somehow they're dealing with it. The challenge is to get your customer from where they are now and what they're used to doing over to a solution that you're going to be providing that is better, and it's so compellingly better that it's a no-brainer for them to move. Get them off the dime and the pain they're going through into something new. That is often harder than you think. You need to understand the way they're dealing with the need that they have. So you make sure that you cover, how am I going to get them off the dime here, regardless of who the competitors are. Once you've got all of this together, you can now explain and put in a business plan later, further amplify what your clear differentiation is versus your competitors. But you're going to say it in a non-threatening way, that is, we're better than so-and-so because they do this and we do this, and and that's not what I'm talking about. It's now capitalizing on the strengths that you have identified in your SWOT analysis and the clear superiority that you've identified in your competitive matrix, and putting that in the form of marketing messages that are the foundation of your value proposition that you're going to put out all over your marketing material, starting with the homepage of your website. Your differentiation turns into the power you're going to have in marketing to your customers, in telling them why you're great, what makes us different, how do we meet your needs, and how valuable it is going to be for you as we do that. Differentiation. The differentiation then points out a clear advantage you have in the marketplace. And your competitors are going to notice that. Better yet, your potential customers are going to know that. And you want them to know that. So your differentiation, by the way it is written and the way it's portrayed, because the reader of it, hopefully is your potential customer, is going to realize, wait, you got something going for you that nobody else has. And it's going to get us a chance to move forward and out of this status quo we're in today. You really want a competitive advantage that your potential customer will readily conclude they need to buy from you. And what that means is that you have now created a must-have solution for them. Not a me too, like I mentioned the other day. You don't want one of these me too, we're just as good as everybody else, and we're pretty good at overcoming your status quo. We got a really good solution for you. If you clearly come across like you are kind of equal to everybody else, that's a me too. You don't want to be that at all. You want to be a must-have because you're clearly superior to all comers, and clearly a solution they should have that was going to get them off the dime of where they are today into something much better. Hope that helps. You should have a must-have as well. Have one. I'm Bill Warner with Entredot. Have a great day.